Boeing, in the past, was famous as a premier manufacturer of commercial jetliners. But now it's famous for its unfathomable culture. It's a culture of cover-up that hides the disturbing issues. It's a culture of DEI, prioritizing diversity over safety. Recently, we discovered something else: the culture of blame. Indeed, for Boeing CEO David Calhoun, the serious problems on the Boeing Starliner over the past decade have never been his responsibility. Find out everything in today's episode of Techmap. But before we begin, let's subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with the latest space news. The Starliner crew flight test was supposed to be a 10-day flight, but it turned out to be a journey that even neither NASA nor Boeing knew when the spacecraft would come back. Although Starliner batteries just have a limitation of 45 days, in fact, NASA's manager, Steve Stitch, believes it could be extended. We talked about a 45-day limit, limited by the crew module batteries on Starliner, and we're in the process of updating that limit. We've been looking at those batteries and their performance on orbit. They're getting recharged by the station, and that risk hasn't really changed. So the risk for the next 45 days is essentially the same as the first 45 days, he added. Starliner, in fact, is rated to stay as long as 210 days in orbit once operational missions begin, he pointed out. But as this is only Starliner's third mission in space, and its first with astronauts, NASA had been unsure about the battery performance in orbit before now. Stitch said, "We haven't decided how long to extend it yet. Starliner has 12 different batteries," he explained. Before this flight, similar batteries sat on the ground for a year and were then tested to make sure there were no defects, and none were found. What we really are doing now is looking at the performance of the battery in flight. We don't see any degradation in any of the cells where the batteries are, he added. While the keywords including Boeing Starliner and stranded in space were going viral on social media, Boeing CEO David Calhoun sat there and mouthed off like he and his company were innocent. In front of Senator Josh Hawley, the Boeing CEO, who is compensated $33 million in 1 year, still confidently declared,
"Senator, I'm sticking this through. I'm proud of having taken the job. I'm proud of our
this
safety record, and I am
You're proud
very
of this safety
proud
record.
of our Boeing people.
You're proud of this safety record.
I am proud of every action we have taken."
This declaration was given at the hearing on June 18 in front of a Senate panel over the company's safety and quality lapses, a host of whistleblower allegations about company corner cutting and retaliation, and his own pay package. Even when it comes to the failure of the Starliner project, as he said last year, it's the fault of the government, of the fixed-price contract, not of Boeing. "We have a couple of fixed-price development programs we have to just finish, and we'll never do them again. That fixed-price development world has to stop. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work for us, and it doesn't work for our customers, in my not-so-humble opinion." A fixed-price contract sets the terms of a project and establishes the price of goods or services. It outlines exactly what the seller is required to do and the seller's obligations for a firm price. If you sell your goods at a lower price, you will benefit from the leftovers. Otherwise, you have to cover the loss. For decades, Boeing, as well as other legacy contractors, was nourished with so-called cost-plus contracts applying for major development programs, including the Space Launch System and Orion. A cost-plus contract is a construction agreement that requires reimbursement for project costs, as well as a markup that covers the contractor's overhead and profit. In other words, the name is a shorthand way of remembering what the contract covers: project costs plus contractor markup. Thanks to such a contract, the Space Launch System has been delayed for 6 years after its first targeting a debut launch in late 2016, costing at least $13.1 billion over nearly 25 years, resulting in approximately $6 billion in cost increases. Orion spacecraft is not a much brighter case. For fiscal years 2006 through 2023, the Orion program had expended funding totaling $22.9 billion in nominal dollars. This is equivalent to $29.4 billion in 2024 dollars, using the NASA New Start inflation indices. In 2024, the U.S. Congress approved up to $339 million for the NASA Orion spacecraft. Despite the huge investment, Orion is in hot water with its heat shield during re-entry in NASA's Artemis 1 mission in 2022. Worse, NASA has yet to find a root cause for this problem, and this has become the biggest risk for Artemis II's timeline in September 2025. To date, it's unclear how much money Boeing milked under such contracts, but the price they have paid is incalculable. That is the reputation of a company that was once America's greatest, was painstakingly built by the real Boeing engineers. Yet, just within less than 30 years, Boeing has gone sideways. Boeing's new leadership is like a bottomless begging bag. The $1 billion in Congress's budget always makes their mouth water. Thanks to the profile of decades of spaceflight experience, it's easy for Boeing to bill the government for all of its expenses and earn a fee, obviously. NASA then has to pay for all of the cost overruns and delays. But now everything has changed. Boeing had to deliver a flyable spacecraft for a firm, fixed price. Thus, every penny spent on Starliner meant one less penny in profit. To avoid the greater loss, they came up with a more terrible decision, allocating fewer resources to Starliner than it needed to thrive. This bitter reality is not only in space. We can see that clearly in military fixed-price contracts Boeing joined, such as the transport aircraft KC-46, the T-7A Red Hawk trainer, or the MQ-25A Stingray tanker drone. The technical malfunctions and delays forced Boeing to compensate billions of dollars in each, and in the end this created a huge financial crisis for the company. Despite the efforts in economic recovery, including increasing revenues and narrowing losses, Boeing's financials in the third quarter of 2023 continued to be dragged down by its defense, space, and security division. This division, which includes missile production for the military and space activities such as satellites and the Starliner spacecraft, lost $1.7 billion during the 2023 first 3 quarters. Of course, with Boeing's current comprehensive crisis, the turbulence for the company is far from over. Why did Boeing fall so badly? As Boeing's CEO Dave Calhoun said, it's due to a fixed-price contract. While you are considering this as a BS excuse, to some extent, he has a point. Wait, let me explain. In offering the fixed-price contract, NASA had good faith that it would promote the commercialization of space. However, it inadvertently created a fiercely competitive market where we only see SpaceX as the leader. And that is a nightmare indeed for NASA's policymakers. According to NASA's latest announcement during a press conference on Thursday, Boeing Starliner won't return until at least August. We're making great progress, but we're just not quite ready to do that, NASA's Steve Stitch said. The agency needs to conduct a review that won't happen until the first week of August, Stitch said, and only after that review will the agency schedule Starliner's return. The delay this time is just a fraction of the dark, long history of the spacecraft, which contributes to heavy losses for manufacturer Boeing. Boeing joined NASA's 2014 Commercial Crew Program to develop its Starliner spacecraft, which is used to ferry astronauts to the ISS. However, this is a fixed-price contract program, limiting funding to contractors. Last year, Boeing CEO Dave Calhoun vowed that the aerospace and defense company would stop using fixed-price development contracts. We have a couple of fixed-price development programs we have to just finish and never do them again, Calhoun said. That fixed-price development world has to stop. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work for us, and it doesn't work for our customers, in my not-so-humble opinion. Boeing has been forced to absorb heavy losses from cost overruns on several major fixed-price development programs, particularly the Starliner spacecraft. Both the company and SpaceX were awarded by NASA for the Commercial Crew Program in 2014, but Boeing is lagging SpaceX by substantial years in achieving its first crewed Starliner mission to the ISS. With $1.5 billion of loss, the company has acknowledged it can no longer make money under fixed-price contracts and will be implementing stricter underwriting standards going forward, Boeing's chief executive David Calhoun said last year. As you know, part of the challenge we're dealing with are legacy contracts that we need to get out from under. Rest assured, we haven't signed any fixed-price development contracts, nor intend to. These moves are all fundamental to accelerating recovery by the 25-26 time frame. Clearly, the fixed-price contract is such a big challenge for any company, not alone Boeing, because not only do you have to ensure the product's quality meets with the strict standards of the customer, but also keep everything at a limited cost. Another example is the case of Northrop Grumman, which is SpaceX's only formidable rival under the U.S. deorbit vehicle contract to destroy the aging ISS by 2030. The company is beaten by SpaceX across all three criteria: price, mission suitability, and past performance, as you can see in this table. According to the source selection statement, SpaceX's bid price was $680 million, which is deemed to be fair and reasonable in comparison with the $1.5 billion budget that NASA asked the Office of Management and Budget the government's price. Meanwhile, Northrop's bid is written to be significantly higher. Of course, cost is just a necessary condition. Elon Musk's company can't be able to win if it loses in two remaining categories: mission suitability and past performance. The mission suitability embraces the technical approach, management approach, and small business utilization. At this point, SpaceX gets an 822 score compared to 589 of NG. The last one, which SpaceX is assessed very high, is the past performance. This is related to the success rate in their vehicles such as Dragon spacecraft, Falcon 9, and Falcon Heavy. Dragon is now NASA's only vehicle to transport crew and cargo to the ISS. Falcon 9 is off the table with a 99.7% success rate. It met the anomaly accident this month, but keep in mind that it's just a rare mistake and doesn't harm public safety. Its previous adjacent failure was 9 years ago, which was one catastrophic in-flight failure, an explosion in June 2015. Northrop's performance on Cygnus, Dragon's rival in NASA's COTS, and its various rockets was given a moderate rating. Based on the above analysis, it can be said that selecting SpaceX is completely fair and unbiased. SpaceX's footprint doesn't stop at NASA's Commercial Crew Program and the U.S. deorbit vehicle. We also see their presence in NASA's Artemis and likely several other programs in the future. This possibility is entirely possible as SpaceX is extending its capability in various areas such as spacesuits, satellites, and suborbital travel, and they also have achieved some achievements. Although it's a positive sign showing that NASA has a great partner, in fact, it sounds like the agency is going in reverse its motto, redundancy, and preventing the monopoly. SpaceX is increasingly mopping up the lion's share of new NASA contracts. Of course, the officials don't want SpaceX to win contracts without competition, and they also provide opportunities for the other entities joining the big programs. However, the bottom line here is that the majority fail to keep up with the requirements of the fixed-price contract, or if any, their performance hardly overcomes SpaceX. The switch from the traditional cost-plus contract to the fixed-price contract helps NASA to save money, eliminating cost overruns and delays, thus stimulating the market, meaning that the supplier can own the vehicle and sell the service to various entities, including NASA. However, the time that the agency has made this effort is pretty sensitive, given that the aerospace industry is just on the threshold of commercialization. Large traditional space contractors such as Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and Northrop Grumman are familiar with cost-plus contracts that give them time and financial freedom. Especially the Wall Street-style leader of Boeing usually prefers the benefits rather than quality and credibility, so the traditional contracts are exactly their gold mines. Therefore, it will not be unfathomable if this change makes those firms down and they are re-evaluating their participation in fixed-price contract competitions moving forward. Northrop CEO Kathy Warden said last August, "We are being even more disciplined moving forward in ensuring that we work with the government to have the appropriate use of fixed-price contracts." Another potential sector is the private companies which NASA is looking at. They highly expect that new unicorns with out-of-the-box thinking would sustainably step up in an environment of fixed-price contracts. Ironically, the rocketry market is inherently very tough, and any newbie also needs wealthy backers to heavily subsidize operations, such as Blue Origin and Jeff Bezos, or SpaceX and Elon Musk. Or at least they must prove the company will create a sustainable revenue stream to attract investors. Last but not least, they must have smart strategies to survive and develop during the harsh transition period as currently, creating a remarkable difference compared to traditional companies with long-standing foundations. SpaceX's way of doing this is humanity's most complete and up-to-date understanding of how to properly launch rockets. As a result, SpaceX is thriving in NASA's commercial space ecosystem. To keep up with SpaceX, the unicorns could take advantage of being successors to observe the Falcon 9 and see how it is done. The way of standing on the shoulders of giants was also applied by SpaceX in the wild days, when they learned from NASA's space shuttle how to make heat shields, analyzed mistakes, and came up with appropriate solutions. Nevertheless, to break SpaceX's dominance, the principle is never to beat them in their process. Somebody should do something fundamentally different, even though this doesn't always work. This is where startups with unique ideas come in, such as Spin Launch with mass accelerator technology, or Sierra Space with its mini shuttle, Dream Chaser. In short, the push toward commercial space through the fixed-price contract seems admirable, but simultaneously, it poses tons of challenges and setback for a national agency like NASA. One of them is an oligopoly, and to solve the problem, perhaps, the agency really needs a strategy and a little bit of patience to see the effectiveness of its approach. So, how about you? Do you agree with what I said? Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments section below. And that just about wraps it up for today's episode. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you next time.